This is the battleship that Churchill dreamed of sinking. It is also the hardest battleship in the world to sink. His life was either spent being bombed, or on the way to being bombed. However, as long as it is stationed in the Norwegian Sea, the Allied escort fleets will obediently avoid it. It is the battleship Tirpitz. In this video, we will take a look at the extraordinary life of this battleship. After Hitler came to power in 1933, Germany's military power rapidly developed. Especially the Air Force and Army developed quickly. However, he also wanted to establish a powerful fleet to rival the British Navy. In 1939, the Tirpitz was launched. Along with its sister ship, the Bismarck, it became the largest battleship in Europe. Hitler planned to challenge British maritime supremacy by 1948, challenge Britain's maritime hegemony. At that time, Germany would build 10 battleships, 4 aircraft carriers, several cruisers, and U-boats. But when the war broke out in September 1939, the German Navy had only completed a small part of its plans. The fleet included 3 pocket battleships, 2 cruisers, about 36 destroyers, and 57 submarines, as well as the battleships Tirpitz and Bismarck. Tirpitz had a displacement of 42,900 tons when completed. It reached 52,600 tons at full load. The crew numbered up to 2,500 men. Its main armament included 8 twin-mounted 380mm guns, with a range of up to 36 kilometers. Its secondary armament included 12,150mm guns, 16,102mm guns and 58 anti-aircraft guns. Additionally, it was equipped with 8 torpedo launchers. The battleship was equipped with an advanced radar system for search and fire control radar for targeting to ensure aerial reconnaissance. The ship also carried 4 aircraft, equipped with machine guns and bombs, the seaplanes. The Tirpitz had strong armored protection. It was powered by 3 steam turbines. The maximum speed could reach 30.8 knots. In 1941, Germany invaded the Soviet Union. The Allies began launching Arctic convoy operations. The importance of the Norwegian naval base became apparent. At the end of May 1941, after the sinking of the battleship Bismarck, the Tirpitz became the only battleship of the German Navy. Hitler ordered the Tirpitz to head to Norwegian waters, to defend against possible Allied attacks, and to disrupt the Allies' Arctic convoy operations. In January 1942, the Tirpitz sailed to Trondheim. Almost simultaneously, British forces deployed 27 heavy bombers to bomb Ale Sr., but they were unable to locate him. On March 6, the Tirpitz attempted in the Arctic, intercepting the Allied PQ-12 and QP-8. The convoy failed due to a lack of clear intelligence, resulting in the failure of the operation. However, the presence of the Tirpitz has always been a thorn in the side of the Allies. 3 days later, the British fleet's Air Force launched an attack on the Tirpitz. Despite the fierce attacks by the British forces, not a single torpedo hit the Tirpitz. After the air raid failed, the Tirpitz returned to the fjord, ordered by Hitler, unless the British aircraft carriers were destroyed. Otherwise, they were not to leave. In mid-1942, the Tirpitz dominated the fjords of Norway. The British Navy hesitated. Although it had powerful firepower, the Tirpitz was not involved in combat most of the time, not involved in the fight, mainly serving as a deterrent. During this time, the Allies bombed multiple times, but none were able to inflict damage on the Tirpitz. But then, the 30 Allied merchant ships of the PQ-17 convoy, ambushed by German U-boats and aircraft, resulting in the Allies' most severe losses during the war. Thus, the Allies decided that the Tirpitz must be eliminated. Torpedo team. In October, Churchill further prioritized the destruction of the Tirpitz as a top priority. Subsequently, 3 major attacks occurred to sink the Tirpitz. Britain developed a type of mini-submarine. This submarine was equipped with 4 tons of high-performance explosives. However, the submarine had limited endurance. It could operate for a maximum of 14 days. After a brief training period, Britain was ready to carry out the mission. But en route, these submarines encountered equipment failures and other issues, ultimately leading to the disappearance of Submarine 9. Submarines 10 and 8 were unable to return due to mechanical failures, ultimately sunk off the coast of Norway. On September 20th, the remaining submarines surfaced, start independent operations. They crossed the German minefield. On September 21st, they finally entered Alban Fjord. They had long forgotten. The Tirpitz anchored at the end of Helen Bay. It was surrounded by torpedo nets. The protection was very tight between the submarine and the Tirpitz. Several German warships and auxiliary vessels were also anchored. At dawn on September 22nd, submarine number 6 was the first to head towards the target. Just as submarine number 6 entered the fjord, a fire suddenly broke out inside the submarine. The entire compartment was filled with smoke. Meanwhile, submarine number 7, while heading towards the Tirpitz, got tangled in the anti-torpedo nets. It took half an hour to break free. Other small submarines also passed through the dam. Soon, submarine number 6 ran aground briefly, but it was not discovered by the German army. However, they soon hit a reef. This caught the attention of the German army. The soldiers on the Tirpitz immediately opened fire. Seeing this, U-boat 6 headed towards the Tirpitz. Eventually, explosives were placed near turret B. Realizing escape was hopeless, the submarine surfaced and surrendered. Soon, U-boat 7 approached the Tirpitz and placed explosives beneath the bridge and the rear turret. At 8:12 a.m., the explosives beneath the Tirpitz detonated. There were 2 explosions. They caused severe damage to the Tirpitz. Although the hull remained intact, there was a 1-meter wide hole at the waterline on the port side of the bow. There was a 1-meter wide hole. The keel was also slightly twisted. Multiple compartments took on water. The explosion caused a shockwave that lifted the Tirpitz 1.8 meters high. This resulted in extensive internal damage. 3 out of 4 diesel generators were damaged. October 1942. The Tirpitz began repairs. They were not completed until March 1944. This period of inactivity provided an opportunity for the Allies' Arctic route. Late January 1944, the Navy Department formulated a plan to attack the Tirpitz in March. The purpose of this attack was to use a new type of 725 kg armor-piercing shell to destroy the Tirpitz. This operation involved 5 aircraft carriers and over 100 planes. At dawn on April 3rd, 10 Corsair fighters from the USS Victory took off for high-altitude escort. Meanwhile, other planes were preparing. The main assault force consisted of 32 dive bombers. The formation was divided into 2 wings. Each wing had 16 planes. During the flight, 40 frame Wildcats launched from other aircraft carriers, and 20 Hellcat fighters also joined the escort. At this time, more than 100 assault planes had arrived. 4:37. The first wave of planes flew along the southeast by east course. They climbed to an altitude of 3,000 meters when they were 40 kilometers from the coast. Above them, pirate fighters circled. Meanwhile, smaller fighters flew alongside the dive bombers. The sudden appearance of the planes caught the soldiers of the Tirpitz off guard. The Tirpitz was preparing to depart for a speed trial. The captain quickly sounded the alarm. The anti-aircraft gun crews rushed to their positions. At the same time, they released smoke screens. But the British planes were already approaching. When the bombers formed up, preparing to dive bomb, Wildcat and Hellcat fighters lowered their altitude to strafe. The German troops on the Tirpitz immediately turned into a scene of chaos. The multiple anti-aircraft guns became ineffective. 1 minute later, the first wave of bombers began. Launched the attack. A large number of 725 kg bombs dropped from an altitude of about 760 meters. But due to the low drop altitude, many bombs failed to penetrate the deck of the Tirpitz. However, the Tirpitz was instantly surrounded by explosions. This kind of attack lasted for 1 minute. This attack was too sudden, resulting in heavy casualties among German soldiers. The control system of the Tirpitz encountered problems. Ultimately ran aground on the west bank. A 725 kg armor-piercing shell struck the front of the turret on the starboard side. Another hit the left side of the flight deck. At the same time, several other areas were heavily damaged. Then the second wave of attacks began. At this point, the attack time was no more than 1 minute. But the Tirpitz was again heavily struck. The right side of the hangar, right side of the aft superstructure secondary turret, right side of the main turret on the aft deck inside the hull torpedo dive bomber. All were attacked by bombs. This attack, the Allies lost 1 Corsair fighter, 3 bombers and 9 pilots. Meanwhile, the German army had 123 casualties. 329 were injured. The British initially believed that after this attack, Tirpitz would lose its combat capability. However, just 3 weeks later, Tirpitz was fully repaired. This indestructible cockroach was still able to function. After the last operation failed, the British conducted several small-scale air raids, but Tirpitz remained full of vitality. This infuriated the British forces. On September 15, 23 Lancaster bombers attacked Tirpitz again. Bombs fell from an altitude of 4,000 meters. Among them, a bomb penetrated the bow of Tirpitz. The nearby explosion caused severe damage. This led to 2,000 tons of seawater flooding into the compartment. The engine was damaged. Ultimately, the Tirpitz lost its ability to navigate. Soon, the Tirpitz was moved to the nearby Solberden Strait. There, it was used as a defensive gun. At this time, the Tirpitz was already in an unprotected state. In late October, the Allies attacked the Tirpitz again. On October 29, 32 Lancaster bombers dropped bombs, but they unintentionally missed the target. At 3 a.m. on November 12, 32 British bombers took off from Lossiemouth, Kinloss and Milton. As they flew over the North Sea, they maintained an altitude of about 450 meters. After reaching Shetland, they turned north towards Norway. Soon, the air raid sirens in Tromsø sounded. Preparations for defense on the bridge of the Tirpitz were underway. Quickly deployed. The anti-aircraft gunners are in position. 30 Allied planes are heading towards the Tirpitz. 18 Lancaster bombers approaching the target in formation. The Tirpitz's anti-aircraft fire also began to open up. Soon, the bombers dropped giant bombs. The first bomb took about 30 seconds to hit the target. Subsequently, multiple bombs directly hit the Tirpitz. The first bomb struck the forward port side behind the chimney. Another bomb fell further back. 2 bombs both penetrated the Tirpitz's armored deck. The Tirpitz began to list to port. Then, another 11 Lancaster bombers approached them, launched another attack, dropped more bombs. This time, the Tirpitz's luck finally ran out. He was sunk by a bomb. Among the 1,900 crew members in the world, nearly 1,200 lost their lives. The life of the Tirpitz experienced no less than 10 attacks, big and small. In the end, it could not escape the fate of being sunk.